It's great to be here at Warriewood Surf Lifesaving Club. I'm joined today by Steph Cook, the Minister for Emergency Services, the local member and resident surf lifesaver himself, Rob Stokes, also the Infrastructure Minister, and also George and Steve Pearce from Surf Lifesaving, who will talk about the importance of water safety, particularly over the Australia Day period. And also Susan Pearce will provide, the Deputy Secretary of New South Wales Health, will provide some information in relation to the ongoing vaccination program here in New South Wales and our booster shot program, which continues to ramp up in our 40 hubs across our state. But here, joined with Steph Cook, this is a very important time in our year. We've got the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the world, but it's important to remember water safety, particularly at this time. We know around 1 in 5 drownings in our state occur over the Australia Day period. And importantly, what we do see is that the vast majority of drownings that occur in beaches in New South Wales could have been avoided. And that is the most tragic aspect of all of this. So it's incredibly important as we go through the Australia Day week and the Australia Day holiday period and head into the end of the summer months that we continue to remain vigilant and safe. Continue to follow the instructions of our fantastic surf lifesaving team right across New South Wales, swim between the flags and take personal safety. We know that the majority of drownings, as I said, that occur in our state could have been avoided, and that makes them even more tragic. Particularly with mixing drinking, we know that particularly for young men, this results in many drownings across our state. So our clear message today is please support and follow the instructions of our surf lifesaving team. We have 76,000 volunteers. They do amazing jobs. They're the heroes of our beaches, the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the world. Please enjoy them, but please do so safely. Follow the instructions, support our great team, and I want to thank all our surf lifesavers, all our volunteers across New South Wales for the incredible work they do. Volunteerism is a key part of the Australian psyche, of our fundamental Australian values. I want to thank them for every day coming out, particularly in what's been a difficult 2 years through this pandemic. Our surf lifesavers have continued to do an amazing job day in, day out. Steph Cook will make some further comments in relation to water safety, but I also want to make the point today, a few comments in relation to the pandemic. Just like our volunteers, I want to thank our frontline health workers who continue to do an inspirational job day in, day out, day and night, keeping people safe, with care, with love, as we move through this challenging time for our state. They've been an absolute inspiration. Our nurses, our doctors, our allied health professionals, cleaners in our hospital system, our paramedics, our O call operators. We released that information yesterday. It's very pleasing and reassuring to see that we are operating within capacity on our best case scenario, and that's incredibly pleasing. And the key to that success has been the vaccination program in our state. They're one of the highest vaccination rates anywhere in the world. We made that change recently in respect of bringing forward the period of time from your second dose vaccination to your booster shot from 4 months to 3 months. That means that there are many people now eligible right across our state to receive that booster shot. My clear message today to the people of our state is let's keep this effort going. This effort has kept ourselves safe during the last period of time, and it will keep us safe going forward. I know that many people have gone away on holidays and are now coming back. Well, come back and book your booster. We've now seen, as we've changed that date, many more people across our state are now eligible in one of our 40 hubs across New South Wales, and obviously we are supporting both the GP and pharmacist network as well. So if we can continue the effort, if we can continue the sacrifices that we've made over the last 2 years, this final push to get boosted, evidence is clear, particularly if you look at the ICU presentations here in our state. I was tracking below that best case scenario position. What we're seeing is that close to 50% of people in ICU are unvaccinated. 95% of the population here in our state vaccinated, almost 50% of people in ICU unvaccinated. The facts and the evidence speaks for it. The evidence is in, the facts are in. Please continue to make that effort to get that booster shot, to make that booking, as I said, to any of our centres, 40 centres across our state, to your pharmacist and your GP. But also, I'll make this point, that if you have received your first and second vaccinations, either at your GP or at a pharmacist, you can go to one of our hubs as well. So you don't have to follow the same settings that you've done in the past. We have those three options available to you. Our hubs are there to provide that support, and we are getting up to capacity of around offering 250,000 vaccinations in our hubs every week as we move through this period of time. So once again, can I thank everybody across our state for the effort that you've made, in the sacrifice you've made, in going out and getting vaccinated. We've got to do this final push to get boosted. That's the key to keeping people safe as we move through this next period of time. Continue to treat everyone with kindness and respect. They're the values of our great state. They're the values that will help us get through this next period of time as well. Now I'm going to pass to Steph Cook, who'll give us an update in relation to water safety and the importance of that over this Australia Day period. Then Minister Stokes will speak. Then we'll have Steve and George from Surf Lifesaving, and then Susan Pearce will provide an update into the vaccination program in our state.
Thank you, Premier. It's wonderful to be here today at the Warriewood Beach, meeting with members of the Warriewood Surf Lifesaving Club to say thank you to them for their tireless work over the past several weeks and months of summer, and in particular in recent weeks where we've seen some close calls here at this beach, a rescue just last week involving some teenagers that entered the water and found themselves in some difficulty, and of course the tragic loss of a rock fisherman at this location. And it's a timely reminder to all of us that we must keep ourselves and our loved ones safe around the water this summer. We're heading into Australia Day. It's a wonderful time of celebration and get together for so many Australian and New South Wales families. It's also important that we look out for each other at this time, particularly in and around our beaches, our waterways, whether they be here in such a beautiful location in Sydney, all along the coastline, or indeed inland in our waterways and our recreation parks. Tragically, we've seen 15 people lose their lives since the 1st of December along our coastal areas, which is a tragedy, and these deaths are entirely preventable. So I'm really asking people to take care as we move through the rest of this summer, particularly through Australia Day. Don't take risks unnecessarily. Be mindful of your own capabilities. And if you can't swim, don't go in. It's just not worth the risk, not to yourself and to your families. And importantly, to our volunteers who do such a wonderful job all year round of keeping us safe on beaches and through other parts of New South Wales. They do a fantastic job, and I just want to also extend my thanks to the 76,000 volunteers of Surf Lifesaving New South Wales across 129 clubs. Day in, day out, 365 days a year, they turn up and they keep us safe. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to do our bit to make their jobs just that little bit easier. So I'm encouraging everyone to have a wonderful Australia Day. Enjoy the rest of summer, but please keep yourselves safe. Be very mindful of your capabilities. Don't mix alcohol and water. They just are not a good combination, and you're simply putting yourself in peril and at the same time putting volunteers at risk also. Please keep an eye on small children and make sure that they're safe. If you're out and about boating or in the rocky areas, please wear a life jacket. It's really, really important. It could mean the difference between you losing your life or being safe at the end of an incident. So in wrapping up today, once again I want to thank all of our surf lifesavers and the clubs that they belong to for their ongoing efforts during what's been a really, really difficult couple of years. We know that they love what they do. I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with them here this morning. They will keep turning up. They are prepared, but I think it's incumbent upon all of us just to do our little bit to make their jobs easier. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. As local member, I couldn't be prouder of the folks at Warriewood Surf Lifesaving Club, an amazing club that has been supporting our local community and visitors to this beautiful stretch of coastline for more than 70 years. President John DeLue and his amazing team that support him are volunteer professional lifesavers, and I use the word professional quite advisedly because while they're volunteers, they're expertly trained by the magnificent Angela Shanahan, who does an incredible job with her team of trainers. My message to everyone in the community: just because you don't live near the beach doesn't mean you can't come down and join a local surf club. We're a volunteer organisation. We love participation from right across New South Wales, and it doesn't matter that you might not feel confident in the surf. Join a surf club and you can get the training you need to keep yourself safe, to keep your family safe, and to ultimately save other people whose lives are at risk. And with that in mind, I wanted to particularly acknowledge Adam and Ben and James, who are some amazing surf lifesavers here at Warriewood, who effected an incredibly brave rescue at the notorious Warriewood blowhole just a few weeks ago. They exhibited vigilance and service, and above all, bravery. Themselves, they're all excellent competitors. They're national champions in beach events, in running, but more than that, they're also expert when it comes to the inflatable rescue boat and in rescuing those two teenagers whose lives were in peril and were saved because of the volunteers here at Warriewood. What an amazing legacy for them to pass on to their families, and what an amazing example to everyone in the community. The last message is to everyone coming down to enjoy our beautiful beaches. We need people out and about. We know that COVID provides a challenge in constrained indoor settings, so we want people to get out in the great outdoors and enjoy beaches. But the clear message is swim between the red and yellow flags. That's where the lifesavers are focusing their attention and their efforts, and you will be safe provided you follow their instructions. So thanks to those lifesavers, and thanks to the amazing men and women of Warriewood Surf Lifesaving Club.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start, I just want to thank the Premier for again blessing us with his presence down here at Warriewood Surf Club. Last time the Premier, the then Treasurer, was on the beach, he was actually flying a drone, looking after Minister Stokes out in the water. I'd also like to congratulate and thank Minister Cook for again blessing us with her presence here, her first surf lifesaving ministerial event, 1 month to the day that she was sworn in. So Minister, thank you so much. To Minister Stokes, again, a proud lifesaver himself and a great supporter of surf lifesaving, and great to see him down here with his sand in the toes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to come up to Australia Day. Australia Day last year saw 1/5 of the total rescues performed right throughout New South Wales in that holiday period. Already this summer we're seeing a huge convergence of people down to the New South Wales coastline because of the travel restrictions trying to get overseas or interstate. So now the coastline is that destination of choice. What that means is our 76,000 lifesavers have been on their toes right since the commencement of the patrolling season. We've effected more rescues to this date than we did last year, and tragically we've seen more coastal drownings than last year. Australia Day, the key messages are this. As Minister Stokes said, it's imperative you come to a patrolled location. We have not had a drowning in our red and yellow flags in a patrolled location. The drownings occurred in an unpatrolled location where our lifesavers and lifeguards cannot see you. If you do come down to Australia Day, it's going to be a fantastic festive day. The weather will be perfect as it is today. Do not drink and swim and come down. Listen to the lifesavers and listen to the lifeguards. Finally, just a thank you to the New South Wales Government for assisting Surf Lifesaving New South Wales with protecting our lifesavers during this COVID period with the provision of additional funding and resources which assist us to keep the community safe on our beach. I'd now like to hand over to the President of Surf Lifesaving New South Wales, who represents the 76,000 members of Surf Lifesaving, Mr Graham Shales.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Look, just on behalf of the 76,000 surf lifesaving volunteers across New South Wales, I'd like to pass on our thanks and their thanks to the community for the work that they have done to obey the guide and listen to the guidance of our surf lifesavers and lifeguards across New South Wales. During the Christmas period and New Year's period, we had some significant work and workloads that we undertook. this time now we currently have 15 drownings, and unfortunately that's 15 lives that don't go home to their parents. And our surf lifesavers and lifeguards across the state love working on the beaches. They love working with the community, but unfortunately there are occasions where that result is a great result. In order to ensure in New South Wales, we would ask that you stay between the red and yellow flags. Swim at patrolled beaches. If you're rock fishing or you're boating, please wear a life jacket. Life jackets will save your lives. If you're unsure of the surf conditions, please ensure that you ask a surf lifesaver or a lifeguard about the conditions on the day. If you're not a strong swimmer, please do not enter the water. We want to ensure, as surf lifesavers, that you go home after enjoying a magnificent day across the coastline of New South Wales. And we want to ensure that you spend an amazing time at these locations. We've got 129 surf clubs that look after you at these locations, and we want you to go home safe and well and enjoy your holiday period. So again, I really just like to take the opportunity to thank the Minister and the Premier of New South Wales for the support that they provide across the surf lifesavers in New South Wales and lifeguards. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. 11 months ago today we started the vaccine rollout in New South Wales. Never in my wildest dreams when we started that rollout did I think that we would have the vaccination rates that we do in this state. Our adult vaccination rate, the kids 12 to 15, pleasingly seeing those numbers come up, and of course now our 5 to 11-year-olds. We still have bookings available in our clinics. So yesterday we saw a bit of a jump in the booster doses that we gave across the New South Wales health clinics, almost 12,000 doses given in our clinics just yesterday. I would like to see every single one of those bookings filled. We do not want them to go begging, and of course whilst it's beautiful out here in the sunshine, do yourself a favour, please make a booking or walk into one of our centres and have that booster dose as soon as you can. You need to treat having the booster with a sense of urgency. Please do not put it off thinking that you'll get to it. It is really, really important that now is the time for us to have our population as heavily vaccinated as is possible. The numbers speak for themselves. Every day we talk to you about the number of people who are in our intensive care units who are unvaccinated. And I know from talking to my colleagues in other states that that same pattern is being experienced there and of course in other places across the world. As we said yesterday, we are very pleased to see a stabilisation and a downward trend in our hospital numbers and our ICU numbers in particular, but we are not out of this yet, and we have got some weeks ahead of us to continue to work hard. Part of our health system working hard needs our community to support us by being vaccinated to the fullest possible extent as soon as you possibly can. Thank you.
I mean, there are reports today that it would be impossible to vaccinate 5 to 11-year-olds and all of them across Australia at the time of this stuff. Would you consider delaying the start of school with vaccination?
Getting kids back in the classroom safely is a key priority for this government. Yes, we focus on the health impacts and we focus on the economic impacts over the last 2 years, but there are broader issues here. And when we have many young children who have, in New South Wales, who have lost a quarter of their schooling, that will have a significant impact on their education outcomes. But we are doing it in a way that is safe for parents, safe for teachers, and safe for children. And we'll be announcing those plans alongside the Victorian Government shortly. In relation to the vaccination program, as Susan has pointed out, there are bookings available in our hubs. There are bookings available through GPs and pharmacists, and obviously we encourage parents to continue to make those bookings as we move through. But we also know that COVID is less severe in young children. We know that this strain of the virus is highly transmissible, much less severe. But there's there are going to be challenges as we open schools. The alternative is to keep schools closed. That's not what we are doing here in our state. And I think nationally, it's really important the approach we've all taken. All states and territories, while some slight changes here and there, all states and territories completely focus on understanding the importance, not just for children's educational outcomes, but for their mental health and social outcomes. We have many young disadvantaged children right across our state where school provides much hope for them. And that's why we're completely committed to doing it. We've worked every day for the last 3 weeks to get these plans in a place that should instill confidence in parents and teachers that we'll be able to open classrooms in a safe environment for everyone.
Some parents are struggling to get appointments for vaccination with their children. Are you doing anything to find the supply of those boosters?
Well, I might get Susan to make some comments there, but from obviously the federal government, from our perspective here in our state, we are supporting that vaccination rollout through our hubs. And I know as a parent that most parents will want to take their child to receive the vaccination at a GP or a pharmacist, but our centres are there to provide that extra assistance, and there are bookings available. And in addition to the children vaccination program, the booster program, as Susan has said, there are still bookings available. And we were able to move that date from 4 months to 3 months to second dose vaccination because we have capacity within our system. And many people have gone away. I know many people have gone on holidays. They're coming back now. Please make this appointment. It's so crucial because we've seen the success of the vaccination program and boosters in keeping people safe. As Susan has said, the evidence is there in the ICUs and hospitalisation figures. Boosters play a key role, but I might get Susan to make some further comments in relation to supply.
Look, very pleasingly, compared to where we were last year during the vaccine Hunger Games with supply, we are not in that position now. And so while I appreciate that parents would probably want to perhaps go to their GP or someone familiar to them, particularly for their 5 to 11-year-old, my message is that, look, if you can't get a booking right away, for example, please look around. There are so many vaccine delivery points now across New South Wales, our clinics, the GPs and pharmacies. It's a very, very different proposition to what it was last year. There are literally thousands of access points for vaccines, and of course we are now working through mobile outreach clinics for people, as we did last year, out in rural areas. That work will continue. We'll continue to work, for example, with Multicultural New South Wales, with Aboriginal Affairs, because the job we had last year was to make sure that no one was left behind in the vaccination efforts, and I think we really clearly, honestly demonstrated that we were able to do that. We will do that again this time. So the clear message is, look around. If you can't find an appointment at the first spot you look at, just keep looking. The clinic finder is quite lots of delivery points, so there should be an appointment.
The information showing there are available bookings in state-run clinics for children?
Yes, and I don't have the list here with me now, but certainly we're watching that, and some of our clinics are booked out for a couple of weeks in advance, but others aren't. And for example, on Australia Day, when people will be out enjoying the sun and hopefully safely swimming in the water, our vaccination clinics will be open delivering vaccines, and in particular the Children's Hospital Network has opened up some extra spots for kids on that day so that we can continue that effort obviously before school goes back.
Has there been much consideration to having vaccine rollout at schools for children?
Look, we will do some vaccine rollout in school, but you'll appreciate at the moment school is not operating. So the clear message was, and this happened last year as well for the 12 to 15-year-olds, what we found was that the uptake of the vaccine in that age group was very swift and not done in a school-based program. We do a lot of school-based vaccinations in normal circumstances, but COVID vaccines, because of their nature, can be a little trickier to handle. So our hubs are very fast and efficient, and as I said, there are now so many delivery points across the state, it does make it a lot easier.
What sort of percentage of school students do you think actually will be vaccinated, or at least
Look, we would love to see that. It is climbing. It's climbing quite quickly now. The 5 to 11-year-olds, I would love to see it at least 50%. But I think we can do better than that. You know, there are still a number of days before school goes back. It's going up by a few percentage points each day. So I think 50% is definitely achievable, but, you know, let's go for 70 at least.
Premier, the cost of this outbreak is ongoing. I mean, there is some expectation that it's going to continue away from 2022. We don't know where things are going. How much is it costing the New South Wales economy, and how well placed is the government to provide the services and support packages that are going to be needed to survive?
Firstly, I think it's a bit too early to be able to see what the economic impact has been, and over the last 2 outbreaks in Alpha and Delta, it takes some time to get that information. But what is incredibly pleasing is that New South Wales, on every one of those outbreaks, the economy and the jobs recovery has come out stronger on the other side. And the jobs figures that came out in New South Wales this week, the unemployment rate of 4% going into Omicron was incredibly pleasing. That shows that the economic foundations in New South Wales are incredibly firm. Now, during the last 2 years, and as a former Treasurer, we've always said that we will focus on ensuring that we keep people in work and get the economy prioritised above the budget position. Now, we've been able to do that more so than any other state because of the strong financial foundations here in New South Wales. Going into 2020, as we move through 2022, it's very difficult to know what further curveballs will come our way in the pandemic. That's outside our control. We'll always be there to support businesses, but what is in our control is vaccination and boosters. And I appreciate many people are anxious as we move through this transitional phase of the pandemic. But lockdowns are not the key. Locking down businesses results in high unemployment, businesses closing, mental health issues, schools closing. That is not the way in which New South Wales and Australia need to deal with this pandemic when we have a highly vaccinated population. That means, as we move through, there will always be challenges, there will be pressure on our health system. As Susan has said, it's pleasing to see where we sit today in relation to the hospitalisations. That does not mean the health system is not under pressure. We are in a 100-year pandemic. It is under pressure, and our health teams are working incredibly hard on the front line to keep people safe. But as we move through, I'm incredibly confident that the New South Wales economy will come out stronger the other side, because we've seen that for the last 2 years. The evidence out this week in terms of savings rates for businesses. The strength of the majority of businesses across Australia have very strong balance sheets at this point because we've given them the financial support to help get through the last 2 years. In addition to that, we've always seen when case numbers increase, confidence declines. When case numbers decline, confidence increases, spending increases, economic growth returns. That's exactly what's going to happen now. It's exactly what happened over the last 2 years will happen again. I'm completely confident of that. We've seen that trend not just in New South Wales but around the country and around the world. And I completely appreciate people are anxious, confidence is low, given we've had high case numbers during this period of time. But I also am incredibly confident that that confidence right across the state will return once we come through.
Stabilisation around the hospital numbers. Do you think it's possible that there could work in this Omicron wave?
If I've learned anything over the last 2 years, I think that you don't make predictions in relation to that. What is pleasing is we're not seeing an exponential increase in case numbers. What is pleasing is that our hospital system and ICU capacity is able to deal with the situation we're in. And this is exactly what was going to occur. I think obviously Omicron being more transmissible than expected has created challenges with furloughing of the workforce across the state. That's still a better problem to have than a very severe form of the virus. But I'm very confident we'll move through this like we have the last two, and come out strong on the other side.
Business groups say that they first started consulting the government to support their money early as pre-Christmas. Should we have a support plan in place already by now? I mean, the fact that some business groups say it's taking too long and still waiting.
Right. Yeah. I'd say the same thing I've said for the last 2 years when I was Treasurer. When we move through waves of the pandemic, we get concerns from business groups who require support. My view and the advice that provided to the current Treasurer is from the position that what the learnings I had over the last 2 years was it's best to wait, assess the situation and invest where it's going to make a real difference. You can't just rush in and provide financial support. In fact, Matt Wade in your paper wrote a very good piece this morning in relation to just this, that you've got to make sure that you target financial support to where the need is. And what is the outcome? To keep businesses in business and to keep people in work. That's what we've done over the last 2 years. I think from all the different packages we've had, we've learned something from. The Treasurer has already indicated and pointed out, so I think it was Monday or Tuesday this week, where there was the festival and the events support package that was released, targeted to where it mattered. We had a very good discussion at Expenditure Review Committee this week. The Treasurer has been consulting widely, so yes, that is occurring, and we're just working through those details now to make sure where we put. This is not our money. This is your money. This is the taxpayers of New South Wales, who we have an obligation to make sure those funds are invested for the outcome of keeping businesses going and keeping people in work. And that's our complete focus. And I have complete confidence that the approach we've taken over the last 2 years works, because we've seen that in the unemployment number. To have an unemployment number after 2 years of a pandemic at 4% is incredible. It is world leading. And I know at times in the pandemic that we can be anxious and we can be negative. But if we take a step back and you look at Australia and you look at Australia's response to this pandemic compared to anywhere in the rest of the world, we have so much to be proud of. As Susan has said, we would never have believed that we would have had a vaccination rate close to 95%. We never thought we'd get it. The Doherty roadmap back when it was set out was looking at 70%. We got to 95%. That has led to one of the lowest death rates in the world. And on the economic and job side, we are incredibly strong. Our response in this country has worked. And there are always difficulties. There will always be further challenges that come our way as we move through this next transitional period of the pandemic. But there is one thing in our control: vaccination and boosters. And if we continue to do that, we'll have the same success as we've seen over the last 2 years.
And what if cases surge exponentially when schools go back?
Oh, we would expect. There's no doubt. We expect as we move. The importance of schools going back is also about setting, not just getting schools back on day one in a safe way is incredibly important for kids and for parents, because we know that if schools don't go back, 5% of the workforce is also taken out. But in addition, this is a return to normal, and there will be potentially further waves. There will be. When schools go back and mobility increases and people come back from holidays and life resumes again as it usually does post-Australia Day, it is likely cases will increase. But we are ready. We are prepared. And I know that may run counter to some of the commentary out there, but we are prepared. Look at the New South Wales health system compared to anywhere else in the country. We have invested substantially in our health system over 10 years. At the outset of the pandemic, $4 billion in increasing capacity in our health system. There's a reason why other states have been forced to lock down. And I think we know why. It is very, very clear. It's the health system. There's a reason why New South Wales has not had to do that, because we have the strongest health system in the country by a long way. It's not close. Now, that doesn't mean it's under pressure in a pandemic. That doesn't mean we've got challenges with an inspirational workforce that have worked hard and tirelessly for 2 years during this pandemic. But when you look at the ICU capacity in the state, when you look at the hospitalisation capacity in this state, the investments that we've made over a period of time have ensured that we can keep people safe when further waves come. When further waves come, if they do. If they do, who knows? But we are prepared. We've been prepared for the last 2 years. We are prepared now to ensure that we keep society operating alongside the virus. That, to Lucy, to your other question, that creates challenges for businesses with furloughed work staff. But it is best to be open, and the challenges that creates than to be closed and the impacts that provides. So I'm very confident where we sit today. There are challenges coming our way, but the fundamental difference between New South Wales and the rest of the world is our vaccination rates. Just to reiterate Susan's point, vaccination has ensured we've been able to keep people safe, and that booster program, so to finish, clear message, please, if you haven't made a booster appointment, please do so today. Thanks, everyone.
Confirm that these economic support packages that you're working on, will they not be...
Say that again?
These economic packages that you're working on to support businesses, are they going to be as good as the ones that were previously released?
We're in a much different environment. I mean, lockdowns are the worst thing for the economy. This has been a challenging time because confidence has declined. We've kept society open with proportionate restrictions, but in the main, society's remained open. Businesses in the main have remained open. But what we need to do is target that support to where the need is. Some businesses have been forced to close for a small period of time because they've lost staff. Others have had revenue decline because people are not confident as case numbers have increased. But that will return. We've seen that every single time. Confidence will come back. At every one of these junctures, what we've seen after the decline is a massive investment and increase in spending, because households are saving when confidence is low. When numbers decline, confidence increases, spending increases, economic growth returns. That's exactly what we're going to see again.
So it's pretty much what you're saying. Don't grow as much money into it.
No, you tailor. It'll be a very different approach, but tailored for impact. Thanks, guys.